Right now, get up to 20% off select online storage solutions. Put heavy-duty HDX totes to good use, protecting what's important to you. The solid, impact-resistant design prevents cracking, and the clear base and sides make items easy to find, even when the totes are stacked. Find select online shelving and tote storage up to 20% off at the Home Depot to organize every room in your home, from your garage to your attic. Visit HomeDepot.com. How doers get more done.
This podcast is supported by Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
From LAist and APM, American Public Media, it's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jen Largis. The McMansion is over. Reflecting back to the Bush-era dream palace that we first met on MTV Cribs and The Sopranos. But is what's replacing it worse?
The landscape of suburban house design now is very bland. It's very white, and it's very boring.
Bullseye host Jesse Thorn's urban mansion is the dream house he's always wanted.
Most people who want to buy a beautiful Queen Anne that's been thoughtfully restored do not want to live next to a tire shop.
How to turn your living room into a real movie theater. No renovation required. All of this, plus we're answering your home improvement questions at 877-864-7460. Coming up next. It's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jen Largis. For nearly 4 decades, the McMansion defined the American suburb. Sprawling square footage, 3-car garages, decorative columns, and a fearless mashup of styles. Colonial, Mediterranean, Victorian, and modern, all under one roof. Now, according to Zillow, that era may finally be coming to an end. So was the McMansion an architectural punchline, or are we being too harsh? Joining us now is Kate Wagner, architecture critic for The Nation and creator of the blog McMansion Hell, to weigh in on this most American of home styles. So, Kate, how do you think the McMansion era will be remembered 25 years from now?
I think it's an interesting question because the houses really became an iconic part of pop culture. You saw them everywhere in music videos. They were really a big part of the rap scene in the mid-2000s, 50 Cent, that kind of stuff. They were in The Sopranos famously. And so I think that even if the houses don't remain, there's a forming of nostalgia for the mid-2000s amongst people who are younger than me and didn't have to go to middle school during the Bush era, where it's only going to be remembered through media, right? And so even when the houses are not there, people are like, wow, people lived crazy lives in the mid-2000s. But the houses are also, I think, really emblematic of an era in which there was super abundance.
And what exactly is a McMansion?
So for me, a McMansion is a type of house. It's not necessarily a style because it can come in any style, infamously. It's a house that was built during a certain era, which is after the 1980s, that was informed by architectural style called postmodernism, in which many different architectural styles came together in ahistorical ways. And it's also a house that is huge, famously huge and mass produced. And it's usually greater than 2,000 or 3,000 square feet.
Looking back, were there any building advancements that came from the McMansion?
The building advancements for the McMansion, I think, came earlier. Basically, this sort of little device called the gang nail plate enabled the mass production of really long spans of trusses. You're talking about trusses that span the entirety of one side of the building to another. Because that kind of building was not economical before. We were not building houses in that way. We were not using these kinds of truss systems. What this technology also did, it reduced the cost of building significantly. I'm not quite sure of the numbers, but you're talking about you could suddenly get a huge amount of square footage for a quarter of the cost. This is why actually you see the amount of total square footage of single family homes kind of explode after the 1970s. They were always getting bigger in the 50s and 60s away from the interwar and post-war period. But there was only such an extent to which that could be done before actually changing the building system itself. Like these great room type situations would not be possible without this system. It completely redirected the load of the building to the exterior, freeing up the interior.
And why do you think McMansions sort of blended so many architectural styles?
I think that the people who are in the income brackets that build McMansions were the people who back in the day would have hired an architect. And part of the appeal of the McMansion, and there was actually quite a lot of appeal to it, which is why it was so popular, was that you were working normally with like a custom home builder who was willing to kind of go along with whatever it is the client wanted. And so they had a kind of total control and total personalization of the house, which I think speaks, for better or for worse, to the kind of American spirit of individuality and self-expression, which I actually think is something that's been largely lost after the McMansion era, which I find quite sad.
What do you think people often get wrong about McMansions?
I think most people are right about McMansions. I mean, people who believe, they look at them and they think that they're extremely ostentatious and that they're ridiculous kind of peacocking of wealth, or like that they're environmentally tragic representations of the suburbs and the exurbs and the entirety of 20th century urban planning. I think all those opinions, which are very strong, are in some way, or if not entirely, correct. But I would say that the McMansion is not an unimportant development in American architecture. I think it is a distinctly American institution. I actually also think that they're very unique. Like the houses look like nothing anyone has ever seen before. And I think that there is something to that. There is something to the element of sheer individuality and the will to make things that don't work together that kind of carries with it a certain charm that I think younger people younger than myself, are sort of gravitating towards, because the landscape of suburban house design now is very bland. It's very white. It's very sort of minimalist, or like doing the kind of mix of minimalism and farmhouse style or what have you. And it's very boring. And so the McMansion, like to younger generations who didn't grow up with them, seem exciting and interesting in comparison, which I think it's sort of a good and a bad thing, because maybe it will lead to more creative suburban house design, but I also don't think we should bring the McMansion back.
So what do you think comes next?
Yeah, I think that in the last 10 years, there was a huge push culturally towards the kind of what we call the modern farmhouse. In the McMansion era, like the house was still a form of self-expression, even if it was also an asset. And so there's just a huge push for like these white houses with these gray interiors, not because it's what everyone wants, but because we really feel a pressure to keep a house in a certain kind of condition. So I think that what follows the McMansion era is a little bit sad in comparison if you're talking about the single family house, but optimistic in comparison if you think about the interest that people have in returning to urban life and restoring even like sort of small cities to something like sort of what their former glory in the 20th century. I think that is a positive development.
Well, Kate, we thank you for being here. And this is such an interesting take on where we'll head next. So we appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you.
That was Kate Wagner. You can visit her blog, McMansionHell.com, and read her writing in The Nation magazine. Right now, we're answering your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on the Soul House Radio Hour.
Hello, this is Jack Campion in Hyannis, Massachusetts.
Jack, thanks for calling in. What's your question today?
So my question has to do with acoustic insulation in a bathroom.
Okay.
And we're doing a bath and kitchen renovation, and the bathroom sits right below a second floor bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I had initially asked the builder to include acoustic insulation in the ceiling while it was open,
mm-hmm.
To kind of prevent noises from the bathroom going to the upstairs bedroom. The insulator recommended not doing it over the bathroom because of the possibility of condensation getting up in there and soaking the insulation. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion on whether that made sense.
Absolutely. We've got Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, and Ross Trethewey, a building engineer for the show, both here to help us out. What's your professional take on that, guys?
What's Ross's professional take on that? Let's start with him.
Sure. Well, Jack, great question. The insulation contractor's concern is a real one, obviously, and there's some caveats there. And so let's kind of go through it. So when you're insulating a space, let's say above the bathroom ceiling, the concern would be that moisture from your bathroom, like showers, is going to migrate into that cavity, and then it has a chance to get trapped and condense, right, and create mold.
Okay.
So we've done it on hundreds of projects with putting rock wool, just like you said, in those ceiling cavities above bathrooms. The biggest concern and the onus is on the ventilation system for that bathroom. The ventilation system has to be effective and has to be used by the occupant, meaning whoever's in that bathroom. Mm-hmm. In a perfect world, if you have a properly ventilated bathroom, which means that you have a bath fan, either in the ceiling or a remote ducted unit that basically takes that moisture and exhausts it outside. And there's a backdraft damper that doesn't allow outside air to come back in when it's not in use. And it's controlled either by a humidity sensor or by a local fan switch in that bathroom so that it runs when you're actually using the bathroom and generating moisture.
Okay. So the key is whether the bathroom itself is well ventilated or not.
That's right. That way you never have a chance for the moisture to get into that ceiling cavity, number one. And then number two, the moisture that is generated is sent outside. It's not allowed to get into any other space of the house.
And this is specific to the moisture created by running a hot shower.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
We live in a cold climate. He's in Hyannis, obviously, right? So you're in a cold climate. You generate all this moisture every single time you shower. That moisture has to go somewhere. And if we're not careful about that ventilation aspect of the bathroom, that moisture then will migrate into spaces where it shouldn't. And that's where mold and other things can grow. So it can, on the backside of the sheetrock, in that acoustical insulation, like he was talking about, on an exterior sheathing in that cavity, up against the outside cold surface and wall. Bad things would happen. So it's really on the ventilation system, especially when you're doing a sealed bathroom like that.
So as long as there's a fan and the fan gets used, no problem to put the insulation in the ceiling, Ross. That's what you're saying?
Exactly.
Well, that's good. I hope my clients don't listen to this. If you answer differently, because I was like, I've done this hundreds of times.
Yeah, hundreds of times.
If he says, no, absolutely not, I'm like, all right.
No, all good.
Can we strike this and call from the record?
So, Zach, in a perfect world, it sounds like they didn't put in the insulation. Should his contractor have had a conversation with him as this was happening to kind of explain this and give him options? Or it sounds like that it's closed up now and we're past the point of return.
I don't know. I think it's fair to trust your contractors, where we don't have all the information that the contractor had. And each one of us, when we work on someone's house, are willing to take on a certain amount of risk. And if that person's threshold is, I'd rather have a homeowner that's unsatisfied about noise rather than a homeowner that's unsatisfied about mold, who am I to say that's not a acceptable way to go? I'm just saying I've done it a lot of times. If I was in IANS, you'd have a quiet ceiling right now.
So what can he do now? Is there a fan?
Yeah, there is a fan, actually. It's kind of away from the shower. Maybe that was the reason he didn't like the idea of putting insulation up there.
It could be part of it. Yeah, it could be part of it where potentially he was concerned about the moisture getting trapped in a certain part of that bathroom closer to the shower because the exhaust fan proximity was very far away.
I think the fact that your contractor was worried about this speaks to good character, even if maybe they were misled, but they were worried about long-term problems. And I think that's a good thing.
He was looking out for you, Jack.
Well, Jack, as a gut check, it sounds like he was doing right by you.
Thank you, Jen, Zach, and Ross. Bye for now.
Thank you, Jack.
Take care, Jack.
Coming up, we answer more of your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. It's This Old House Radio Hour. This Old House Radio Hour is supported by fast-growing trees. Finding the right plants for your specific climate shouldn't be a guessing game. Fast Growing Trees is America's largest online nursery with over 1,600 varieties curated by experts to thrive in your yard. Whether you need privacy trees, fruit trees, or flowering shrubs, they deliver the best quality plants directly to your door. Skip the messy car and the weekend crowds. Just click, order, and grow. Right now, stock up for spring with the plants and trees you need. Select varieties are up to half off. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code THISOLDHOUSE at checkout. That's an additional 20% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code THISOLDHOUSE. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code THISOLDHOUSE. Now is the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use This Old House to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jen Largis. Right now we're tackling your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us now at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Or you can leave us a voicemail. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, Jen. My name's Jay Smiley. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And Jay, what's your question today?
Well, I replaced a kitchen sink some time ago, and once I got the new stainless steel sink into the old countertop, I realized that the previous sink had been put in with a very poorly cut opening, and the new sink does not quite cover the hole. I really don't want to replace the countertop, and I'm wondering if there is some idea of how I can put a standard-sized sink into this hole and cover up that nasty little gap.
Well, we've got Zach Detmore, a general contractor for This Old House, here on the line. Zach, there's a hole in the counter.
So Jay, when you look at the hole, you look into the sink, you're basically seeing the flange around the perimeter because the sink is smaller than the hole?
The flange on the sink comes short of the edge on one side.
Oh, so you actually see the whole flange and then a gap.
Yes.
I think the sink is dropping in from the top, right? And it's not, is it going to fall through, or you just...
Yes.
It's an overmount sink.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It drops in from the top.
Oh, I got you. And what is the countertop material?
It's a standard plastic.
Like a laminate counter.
Yes, that's it.
Got it. Man, I am so jealous of your last name. My last name is Detmore, which just means I'm in more debt, and you're Smiley. My life would be completely different if I was Smiley.
I always tell people that when I was in my teenage rebellious years, I wanted to disown the entire family, but I swore I would never let go of the name.
You're keeping that part. I would too.
I'm in the stage that they're all disowning me now. I didn't expect that.
Unexpected twist.
So there's some websites online that sell all sorts of plumbing fixtures. And the cool thing about those websites is you can sort by size. So they may have 1,000 plumbing, sinks, and you can sort by overmount, and you can sort by the specific size you're looking for. And if you need a kind of a quirky between size, you can sort of limit down your search to between, say, 34 and 35 inches. So I think my first stop would be to go on one of those websites and see if you can find a sink that's going to cover. And typically when you're on those websites, on the first page, it's not going to tell you the specifications you need, but they usually have the specification document that comes with this sink that gives you the cutout dimension. And if you open that document, that will tell you what you need to know. And it might be, you may spend a little bit more than you wanted to on the sink, but it certainly will be cheaper than having to mess with the countertop. And worst case scenario, you go slightly bigger. You need to make that hole a little bit larger, but it'll look good.
Yeah. We're looking into possibly selling the house, so the hole has got to get covered one way or another.
When people buy houses in your area, do they move in and not change anything at all? Because where I live, people just come in and rip the houses to pieces. They don't care what the sink looks like.
Well, this one is in pretty good shape, so I'm thinking that folks are more looking to take it as it is.
They might like to have a sink.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's some beautiful houses in my area that people think are nicely renovated, and then everyone wants to put their own little touch on it. They might make it worse.
I think you've got good advice, though, to go bigger than the hole. And then worst case scenarios, you might have to cut it a little bit. And how easy is it to cut a little larger opening in a laminate countertop stack?
It's very easy. You could use a jigsaw, but just to beat this dead horse, I know you don't want to hear it, but you've been living in this house for however many years, right? You know all the squeaky floors and the quirks and the bits and pieces that aren't perfect. And this person walking through your house to buy it is looked at 12 houses that day. They're kind of conceptually taking in the block, the driveway, the bathrooms, what will look like, will my piano fit in here? So, we're talking about, a six-figure purchase of a home versus what could be a repair between $100 and $1,000 isn't going to, in this housing shortage, isn't going to change that much. So I think you should make the repair, but I also wouldn't get too lost in the reeds, because no one's going to walk away from a house that they like because the kitchen sink isn't dialed in. There's just not enough houses out there in general for that to be the case.
It's just good to hear that odd-sized sinks are available, because I was wondering, I kept on looking over and over and over again, and it seemed like everything was going to leave me with the same problem unless I found some odd way to cover up this extra hole that I had.
No, your perfect match is out there.
Yeah, do your internet search, largest plumbing supplier, find the sinks, sort by size. You'll be impressed by all the different shapes and sizes. It'll blow your mind.
That's the greatest little solution. I appreciate it.
No problem. And if not, just leave it. Tell them it was my fault.
Put a sticky note next to it. Zach Detmore approved.
Oops. Stuff a $100 bill in there and call it a day.
Yeah. Can I give our realtor your phone number?
Yeah.
Jay, thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
It's been great talking to you. Have a great day.
Take care.
Call us now to have your home improvement or DIY question answered. 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Or leave us a voicemail anytime. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, this is Paula from Lake Oconee, Greensboro, Georgia.
Hi, Paula. What's your question today?
My question is, the dining room walls in our home, which we purchased about 2 years ago, have a raised plaster stenciling design. I'm not crazy about it. I'd like to remove the stenciling before I repaint the room. And what's the best way I can do this?
Absolutely. We've got Mauro Henrique, the painter for the show, and Zach Detmore, general contractor for the show, both here to help.
Okay, great.
Mauro, have you ever tried to remove a raised stencil on the wall?
As a matter of fact, yes.
How hard is it?
It all depends. Sometimes it's very, very easy. Sometimes it's really complicated. It all depends on how much adhesive that's there, or the way they apply it, the way they, make all the stencils, especially if it's too thick. Like Paula said, it's kind of very pronounced. Right?
Yes, it's very pronounced. I'm curious how they actually applied that in the first place.
Oh, there are different ways. Most of the time, people just put glue on the back and put it on the wall and call it a day. So everybody does it
so
different.
You're thinking this is something that was applied to the wall, not a stencil that someone held up and sort of dimpled in?
It looks like it was a template and somebody applied plaster or some kind of material so that it's a raised flower design.
So they held a stencil against the wall, took a paintbrush, and sort of blotted in the pattern.
Correct. That's what it appears.
How old is this house, Paula? It's Zach here.
Good question. Yes.
So it was built in 2000, and I don't know if that was a style back then, but I'm really not loving it right now.
That's good news. That means it's joint compound.
Okay.
So Water should help a lot, right, Mauro?
I would say yes. How thick do you think it is?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to say it could be like a 1/16 of an inch.
Oh,
Raised.
sand it.
Sand it down.
Yeah, you're right. Get yourself a sander and a vacuum and boom, 20 minutes and you'll have the whole room full of dust and it'll be off.
That'll be another project.
It'll be 10 minutes of work and 2 days of cleaning.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about is all the dust.
Oh,
Once I've done that, would I have to put a primer on it or can I just paint what I want to do?
yes. After we do all this work, scraping and creating dust, make sure the walls are very clean. Might need some patching too, right? Because you're going to be working. It might be you got to have done the patching, and then lightly sand, put a coat of primer, or get one of those paint and priming one, and choose a nice color and call it a day.
Should I rent a professional sander? I mean, I don't think I can do this with like hand sanding.
Yeah, if you go to the home center, they have all sort of different tools that you can rent for a day or more, you know.
What would you recommend she use?
I would have a sander that is hooked up to a vac. So she will minimize a lot of the dust, will go right into the vacuum cleaner. It's not going to be, linger in the air. And then you would I would start with the 220 grit sandpaper. And you can try, and then you go up or lower on the grit.
Okay.
The home centers in my area, they rent what's called a drywall sander too, which they rent with a vacuum. So you could potentially try that too. If it's a small amount, then you don't need it. But if it's a pretty big area and you think you'd be working, the disc is like, I don't know, the size of
it's about 12 inches.
A dessert plate. Yeah, something like that, right?
It's the best to remove, popcorn ceilings or imperfection on the walls, and doesn't create so much dust. But you can rent one too.
Yeah.
And especially if you tape off the entrances to the room, it's going to help you sort of contain everything to that area. Take a piece of plastic sheeting and make sure you tape it off really good.
I'm going to give it a try instead of just putting paintings on the wall to cover it. I'm going to give it a try.
One question. What color are you using after all this work is done?
Oh, I want to do like a deep purple.
Oh, here we
color.
go.
Yeah, it's a dining room. I kind of want to make it a moody kind of look.
That'll be nice.
Okay, well, I'll be doing this myself.
You got it, Paula.
Paula, we wish you luck with it.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Right now, we're answering your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, my name's Catherine, and I'm calling in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Ah, Catherine, thanks for calling in. What's your question today?
I have an older home, and it was built in 1922, and it has wooden floors. And what I've noticed is I've lived there for about 6 years, but over the last couple of years, there's been some change in topography, you might say, on the second floor.
Oh, dear.
Where there's like a hump, right? There's sort of a hump on the floor as you approach the door to the third floor, and that makes the door not close quite right. It now scrapes on the floor as it passes by. And then as you go past that, it goes back down, a couple of inches. And it's maybe a total of like 3 to 4 inches total change over maybe 20 feet or so. But it's not particularly near the bathroom. So I was thinking, could it be a water issue? But I don't think it's a water issue. So I'm just wondering how that might have happened and what, if anything, I need to do about it.
Absolutely. Well, we've got Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, here on the line to help, and his eyes are wide right now.
Oh, boy. That's not good. Oh, no.
Oh, dear. This doesn't sound good. So in general, with old houses, we don't get scared when things get out of level. We don't get scared when the house is crooked, but we do get scared when things change noticeably and quickly. So if a door opened and closed perfectly one year, and then the next year it's noticeably rubbing, that's a movement that I would call concerning, right? But if, you've got windows or doors that are out of square, or it feels like you're walking uphill or downhill, that's just living in an old house, and that's the cost of admission. But you're making me think this is getting worse. So my first question to you is, has the house been renovated on the first floor, or do we think the original floor plan is intact, meaning walls were, when it was built, are still in the same place?
Well, I might be confusing you with my answer because the renovation primarily happened on the third floor, and that was in 2019. And so that was pretty much a total gutting and remodeling of the third floor.
On the third floor, well, let's go backwards. What kind of house is this? What are we looking at?
We're looking at a colonial brick 3-story style house from 1922 in an old neighborhood. I'm not sure what more information would be helpful, but
is it have a standard gable roof? So if you're looking at it, like the Home Alone house?
It has actually a standard tile roof, I would call it, like a Spanish tile roof.
Oh, I'm loving this. This is good. Is it a hipped roof, or meaning it comes to a point on all planes?
Okay, now you're asking me a tough question because I'm totally blind as it happens. And so I'm trying to give you the best answer. I think it's just going to be coming to a pitch in the one plane, not from all directions. Does that make sense?
I think so. So basically, like if you leaned 2 cards together, 2 playing cards, it looks like that, like a Monopoly house.
You got it.
All right. So when you did this attic renovation, did you modify the floor plan at all?
Yes. Significantly.
And was there a structural engineer or an architect involved with that renovation?
There was not. There was an architect who kind of took a look at the plans, who was a friend of ours. But there was just a general contractor doing the renovation. So that might be our issue.
Yeah, we're paddling into deeper waters now, aren't we?
Oh, no.
So a couple of things, and this isn't bad news, but when you have an old house, typically the rafters that hold up the roof are small in terms of what we would think is acceptable now. And that means they're prone to bowing. So it's common in an attic that's unfinished to have some sort of knee wall, basically a wall that's somewhere between the edge of your roof where the gutter is and the peak of the roof where the highest point of your roof is, supporting those. And so what I'm wondering is, was a reconfiguring of those walls that were previously dropping loads down at some point in this house, now those are moved, and basically that's causing everything to sag, except there's a support in the middle of the house that's unable to sag, and that is now your high point, meaning everything is shrinking around that one point, and your high point is the only thing that hasn't moved. And what makes me think that this could be a possibility is the fact that you said you have an extraordinarily heavy roof. And whenever people renovate attics, the homeowner's like, I want storage, I want space, I want to make this bigger. So moving walls and getting added space becomes more important than bringing structure down in an effective and responsible way.
Well, you've given me an action item. I know where to look in my computer to pull up those files. And Nathan, the architect, if you're listening to the show, I'll be calling you.
Come on, Nathan, you got this. Sorry to give you not great news, but hopefully it'll be an easy fix.
Nathan's just my buddy. He'll help me out.
All right, good luck with it.
Thanks very much.
If you have a question for us, leave us a voicemail on our hotline, 877-864-7460, and we can answer your question next time. Coming up, Jesse Thorn, host of NPR's Bullseye, shows us his old house.
I am not concerned with historic accuracy. I am concerned with preserving the things about our house that we could not reproduce in 2026.
That's next on This Old House Radio Hour. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jen Largess. Coming up, we've got Ben Mankiewicz, journalist and host for Turner Classic Movies, here to tell you how to turn your living room into a real movie theater. But first, we go to Los Angeles, California. Jesse Thorn is the host of NPR's Bullseye, a show that celebrates culture with curiosity and sharp wit. His home in downtown Los Angeles shares that same eclectic spirit, an inner city Victorian that feels lifted from the pages of a storybook.
My name's Jesse Thorn, and I'm the host of Bullseye on NPR, and this is my old house. It's a Queen Anne Victorian, built in 1888, and it's in Lincoln Heights, one of the first suburban neighborhoods of Los Angeles, but now is an inner city neighborhood. It was the house that I always wanted to have. It didn't occur to me that my parents could ever own a home. It didn't occur to me that I would ever own a home. But I always imagined finding something genuinely beautiful. Now, most people who want to buy a beautiful Queen Anne that's been thoughtfully restored do not want to live next to a tire shop. It was on the market for so long. And I was like, what is wrong with this house? These pictures look nice. I remember going in the front door, and it has this incredible front staircase, very much original. And I was like, wow, they actually put in period lighting fixtures. Gas fixtures that had been converted to electric. It was crazy to go into a house in LA where it wasn't just everything had been painted gray or everything is mid-century modern. My house was built by Nathan Cole. He was the first publisher of the Los Angeles Times. There's a piece of paper in my house that the guys who fixed it up made that claims that William McKinley had dinner here once. There's all this stuff that they found in the walls, layers of history, not just the history of it as suburban mansion in 1888, but also its history as urban boarding house as Los Angeles became what it is today. I am not concerned with historic accuracy. I am concerned with preserving the things about our house that we could not reproduce in 2026. That means our front stairway was built 130 years ago by Irish laborers or Scottish laborers who were master woodworkers. And if we mess that up, we could never afford to fix it. But there's so many parts of my house that were built 130 years ago that if I tear one down, I could never afford to hire the craftspeople to replace it. If there's a thing falls off of something, I can replace that. It is really important to protect those special things. So what we did was think about, if we are going to live here forever, what do we need to do? The people who sold it to us had put in central heating and air conditioning, but this kind of house wasn't built for that. So we filled all the walls with insulation, or at least all the walls that we could get to without taking the lid off the house. We replaced lighting fixtures, we put in solar panels, and I replaced all the doorknobs. Almost all the windows are original. A lot of the glass is original. You're looking out through that waviness of glass from 1890. We have an entranceway that has a real, actual grand staircase. Every time I open the front door, I look at that and think, man, that's in my house. Our house also has a finished attic. It's a slanted roof and there's not a ton of room up there, but when my life is really crazy, I can just go hide in the attic. The first project is the downstairs bathroom has a pocket door, and The frame is askew. When guests go to the bathroom, you can see the look on their face as they close the door and it doesn't quite close. Some parts of our house feel like you're in a roller derby rink. There are a few floors that are not quite true, but that's part of the fun of it. Everything carries in from the street, and it's a busy street. So when it's nighttime, we hear the neighborhood. The tire shop behind our backyard regularly hosts wedding receptions and quinceañeras. And those parties sometimes have live bands, and they often go until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We hear people selling tamales walking down the street, traffic noise. All of those things are sounds that I crave. I want them. When I lived in a quiet neighborhood, it freaked me out. I felt like I was in a cabin in the woods or something. The vibes in our house, immaculate. Just a very cheerful place. And it's funny because the rundown Victorian mansion at the end of the block is exactly where a witch lives, but our house is just full of dog petting, children yelling about their special interests, and the baseball game on the radio. So I don't think there's any room for ghosts.
That was Jesse Thorn. Listen to Bullseye on NPR. Check your local listing for airings. It's never been easier to build a theater in your own living room. But what actually makes a home movie experience feel cinematic? And what simple changes can instantly make it better? Joining us now is Ben Mankiewicz, primetime host for Turner Classic Movies. His grandfather co-wrote Citizen Kane, so it's safe to say movies are in his blood. Not just talking about them, but understanding how they're meant to be seen. Ben's here to share practical tips that can transform your movie night immediately. So Ben, what is one element that you think people often overlook when it comes to watching movies at home?
I think critically, by far, the most important thing today is set up a scenario where you're focused on the movie. The whole point of watching this movie is to be taken away by a story, the same reason people went to movies, right? In the classic era of Hollywood and up until a few years ago. I mean, I make this mistake all the time, and I always think, no, that picture didn't get me right away. And then I think, well, for crying out loud, I was doing 5 other things throughout. The distractions in many ways are to me a much bigger issue than the size of the screen or the shared experience.
And so besides a very focused attention, which I think is fantastic advice, what is the difference between, let's say, a good home theater experience and a great home theater experience?
Almost temptation is to say the comfort of the seat, and that matters. But I don't think anybody, is putting folding chairs up in their screening room. So everybody's probably got a place.
Just a stool.
That's right. I got nice chairs down here and I got a nice couch. So you should be comfortable. But by far, what I think people overlook, less and less now, but still, what novices, and I would count myself as a novice for setting up a screening room. I'm not technically advanced, is audio. Don't buy yourself a beautiful TV and not be able to hear it correctly, right? Essentially, you can stream things in Dolby now, but if you don't have the right speakers to bring it to you, if you haven't set up an audio system that can capture the full sound of the movie, the whole package of what the sound engineers created when they made the picture, then you're selling yourself short and you won't feel like it. Doesn't mean you have to have the top of the line everything, but you at least need to enhance whatever your television offers. I mean, at bare minimum, get a sound bar. It shouldn't be coming out of solely that speaker in the television, no matter how good it is.
What does your setup look like?
So now I have this pretty big space, slightly separate from the house, and it can get unbelievably dark. Everything is, we got blinds for every single window. There's a zillion windows, but they're all covered. And we even blacked out the door now. So the glass door is blacked out. I can still, pull the shades up. I can get plenty of light in here if I want to.
So it's dark in your space, and it's
like pitch black in this space. Like it's like you walk in, like you can't, like I've already tripped. Like it's black, nighttime, dark. Yeah.
You need some running lights along the walkway.
We may need some running lights. That's right. Yeah. I still want it to feel like home. I'm not trying to trick us into thinking we're in a theater, right? I just want to be able to, like, mostly with my wife and daughter, sit and immerse ourselves in a movie, have the movie night feel like something different than watching 4 episodes of Modern Family, as great as Modern Family is, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, incredible shows, but my daughter loves. But that when we're watching a movie, this is different, and you got to commit to it. And we're also not going to be on our phones. We're going to be watching this movie.
Is there a screen size you think is the right size to feel immersed?
I imagine that if you put everything down, that an 85-inch screen is going to do it if the space is not gargantuan. We have a 75-inch TV upstairs. I would think something that size that is in this space would be enough. If you turn out all the lights and arrange chairs right and figure out, no, this is a movie. This is a movie night. We're watching a movie.
When you have a TV of a certain size, let's say you said 75, 85 inch, how far away do you prefer to sit?
That is going to depend a little bit on how high it is too, right? I mean, if it's, the higher up you have it, the further away you probably need to be from it.
So when you're watching a movie from a different era, do you ever change any of your video or audio settings?
No. Do people do that?
I don't know.
No, I don't. It wouldn't even occur to me.
I've heard of people switching their settings when they're watching sports versus movies versus the news, like that, that those things do make quite a bit of difference in today's technology. But
well, that's interesting. I'd never thought of that. I mean, I watch basically movies and sports.
I think they require 2 different settings.
I've gotten by with one, but that doesn't mean I'm doing it right.
Are there any movies that you think a home theater can't quite replicate the feeling of watching it in a traditional theater?
Oh, of course. There's so many where it's expansive. There's no way you watch Lawrence of Arabia, you're not going to get the expanse, the Searchers even, you're not going to get it. But it doesn't mean you can't watch them at home. And if you're somebody like me who pays less attention to how a movie looks and much more attention to what the people say to each other and how they react to each other, then I can create that pretty effectively at home. I don't say that like what my choice is good. It's just how I am. I'm artistically stunted. When I was reviewing movies, I felt like such a phony, and we'd come out and we'd review it, and they'd start talking about how it was shot and the music, and I'd be like, don't remember. I already don't remember the music. I didn't even take note of it, and I'll grant you, yeah, it was beautifully shot, but like, if they don't say interesting things to each other, and if the people in them don't do interesting things or human things or authentic things, then I lose interest. I know that if you don't have a DP who knows what he's doing, or you hire a music, composer who's this is his first time and he doesn't care, like, no, I'll notice it. If you get it wrong, I'm going to notice it. So no, it's partly why these guys are so good at what they do is they trick me. They trick me in these wonderful ways into feeling something, and it's a beautiful thing.
Are there any movies or moments that just never get old when you watch them at home?
Oh, of course. It's why a movie that didn't do well in theaters, Shawshank Redemption, came alive from people watching it at home, whether they were watching it on TNT, because it was on 24 hours a day, it seemed like on TNT, or whether they rented it that first year. This movie that didn't do well, wasn't even that well reviewed, did get a bunch of Oscar nominations, though. There are moments that never get old, and I think of Shawshank, and I think of the first time I saw Morgan Freeman open up that box that Tim Robbins left him, and he's in this made-up town. I don't know if it's made up. Bluffton, Maine, I think he's in. And there's nobody. He got dropped off, and then he walked like 4 miles to this tree and this wall, And there's nobody around him. Of course not. But he opens the box up and he's going to look inside. And then he looks over his shoulder, make sure nobody's watching because he's been in prison. And I was like, oh, it's so good. I love that moment. And I'm totally curious whether that was in the script or it was Frank Darabont's idea. I have this suspicion that it was just Morgan Freeman being Morgan Freeman. But I mean, there's every movie I love is filled with those moments.
So what's one thing people can do right now to elevate their movie watching experience at home?
Well, I mean, critically, first and foremost, put other stuff away. Create a scenario where you are the distractions are at least minimized. Make it as dark as possible and watch this thing that, people worked on for sometimes, if you're talking about a writer-director, they may have had this with them for easily 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? And they worked on this and they made this and this is important to them and it's there. They busted their ass to move us in some way. So, don't watch it like this as you're thumbing through something. Watch it, pay attention to the screen and make sure you can hear. Make sure you can hear it.
Fantastic advice. Well, we appreciate you being here and sharing this perspective.
Of course. Nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
That was Ben Mankiewicz. You can see him nightly on Turner Classic Movies. If you have a question about your home, call our hotline at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460, and leave us a voicemail. And now it's time for one last thing, my favorite tool.
Hey, Jen, it's Zach Detmore, general contractor for the show, and here's my favorite tool. It's called a miniature screwdriver. It's roughly the same size as a screwdriver, but the tips that are all stored in the handle are miniature. What I need this for is thermostats, children's toys when you're trying to access the batteries, mounting hardware. It's the type of thing that a normal screwdriver is just too large for, and typically you never have the right screwdriver. So basically this stores all of those little accessories in the handle. It's about the size of a normal screwdriver, but I've just found the packaging of having all those heads in one place and just having to carry around that one tiny screwdriver that's purpose made for that one task is great. So I highly recommend, and I found my coworker stealing it from me because they love it too.
We'll see you next week on This Old House Radio Hour. Our show is distributed by and co-produced by LAist Studios and APM, American Public Media. This Old House Radio Hour was created and produced by Ember 20. Listen to new episodes of the podcast every Tuesday on your app of choice. You can follow This Old House on all the socials at This Old House, all one word. We'll see you next week.